The black paint felt cold against his skin. Brother Artemis stood perfectly still as the chaplain marked his shoulder pad with the symbol of the Deathwatch. The blue of his Ultramarines chapter disappeared beneath the dark coating. With each stroke of the brush, he felt a piece of his old life slip away. Around him, 6 other warriors knelt in the hall of the vigil. Candles flickered in iron holders along the stone walls. The air smelled of incense and weapon oil. Watch Captain Mortali stood before them, his scarred face half hidden in shadow. He held an ancient scroll in his armored hands. "You are no longer sons of your chapters," Mortali said. His voice echoed through the vast chamber. "You are now brothers of the Long Watch. Your duty is to hunt the alien. Your purpose is to protect mankind from the Xenos threat. This oath binds you until death or until your vigil ends." Artemis repeated the words with the others. The oath tasted bitter on his tongue. He had served the Ultramarines for 200 years. He had fought beside his brothers on 100 worlds. Now he stood among strangers, wearing colors that felt like a betrayal. The ceremony ended, and the warriors rose. Artemis looked at the others for the first time. A massive warrior with long gray hair and wolf pelts on his armor caught his attention. The man's eyes were yellow like a predator, and a faint growl rumbled in his throat. Space Wolf. Artemis had heard stories about their wild ways. "I am Brother Dren," the Space Wolf said. He did not offer his hand. "You smell like books and rules, Ultramarine. I hope you can fight better than you can think." Artemis felt anger rise in his chest. "I have killed more enemies than you have seen winters, barbarian." Dren laughed. It was not a friendly sound. "We shall see." Watch Sergeant Aurelius stepped between them. He was a veteran of the Deathwatch, his black armor covered in silver kill markings. Each mark represented a Xenos champion he had slain. There were too many to count. "Save your hatred for the enemy," Aurelius said. "You will learn to fight as one, or you will die alone. The Deathwatch has no room for pride." The next weeks were hard. The kill team trained together in the depths of Watch Fortress Arioch. They practiced combat drills and studied Xenos' weaknesses. They learned to move as a single unit, each warrior covering the others, but Artemis and Dren could not find peace. Their fighting styles clashed like fire and ice. Artemis followed the teachings of the Codex Astartes, the holy book of war written by his primarch. Every move was precise and calculated. Dren fought like a beast, relying on instinct and fury. He had no patience for rules. During one training session, their sparring match turned violent. Dren's frost axe came down hard, and Artemis barely blocked it with his combat knife. The impact sent him sliding across the floor. He rolled to his feet and charged, his blade aimed at the Space Wolf's throat. "Enough," Aurelius roared. He grabbed both warriors and threw them apart with tremendous strength. "You fight each other while real enemies wait in the darkness. Is this the honor of your chapters?" Artemis lowered his weapon. Shame burned in his hearts. Dren spat on the floor but said nothing. Before they could resume training, alarms rang through the fortress. Red lights flashed along the corridors. A summons came from the watch captain himself. The kill team gathered in the briefing chamber within the hour. An inquisitor stood beside Mortali. She was a tall woman with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much death. The rosette of the Ordo Xenos hung from a chain around her neck. Her name was Helene Carrix, and she brought terrible news. "Colovan Prime has gone silent," she said. A holographic image of a green world appeared above the table. 8 million Imperial citizens lived there. 48 hours ago, all communication stopped. Scout ships report no signs of life. The planet has been consumed. Artemis studied the image. Colovan Prime was a civilized world in the Orpheus salient, far from the main war fronts. It had no strategic value. Why would the enemy strike there? Tyranids, Carrix continued. A splinter fleet from Hive Fleet Dagon. But their behavior is strange. They did not simply feed. They searched for something beneath the surface. Watch Captain Mortali stepped forward. Your kill team will deploy immediately. Find what the Tyranids wanted. Destroy any remaining Xenos presence. Discover why this world was targeted. Aurelius nodded. We will not fail. The team prepared for departure. Artemis checked his bolter 3 times. He loaded special ammunition designed to pierce Tyranid carapace. His combat knife was sharp enough to cut through bone. He was ready. As they boarded the Corvus Blackstar transport, Artemis caught a glimpse of Aurelius reading a data slate. The sergeant's face went pale. Artemis moved closer and saw the words on the screen. The feeding pattern was wrong. The Tyranids had not consumed everything. They had avoided certain areas completely, as if something frightened even them. The ship's engines roared to life. Artemis strapped himself into his seat and watched Colovan Prime grow larger through the viewport. Somewhere down there, answers waited in the silence. That he did not know that the silence held secrets older than mankind itself. He did not know that 2 ancient enemies were about to collide on that dead world. And he did not know that his kill team stood at the center of a storm that could consume the entire sector. The Corvus Blackstar descended through clouds of spores, carrying 8 warriors toward a fate none of them could imagine. The Corvus Blackstar broke through the toxic clouds, and Artemis saw the horror below. Cities stretched across the landscape like gray scars. No lights burned in the windows. No vehicles moved on the roads. Colovan Prime was a corpse, and they were about to walk among its bones. Aurelius guided the ship toward the capital city. The landing zone was a plaza outside the main cathedral. As they descended, Artemis noticed something strange. The buildings were intact. No fires. No battle damage. The Tyranids had not destroyed this world. They had simply emptied it. The kill team deployed in tactical formation. Aurelius took point, his bolt pistol ready. Brother Thaniel of the Dark Angels moved to higher ground, his sniper rifle scanning for targets. He was a quiet warrior who rarely spoke, but his accuracy was legendary. Brother Mordecai of the Black Templars carried a heavy bolter that could tear through armored vehicles. His lips moved constantly in silent prayer. Techmarine Kale of the Iron Hands walked with mechanical precision, his servoarm twitching as it searched for signals. Dren sniffed the air and growled. Death everywhere. Old death. The killing happened days ago. Artemis activated his helmet sensors. The readings confirmed what Dren's nose had detected. No life signs within 10 kilometers. The population had vanished completely, leaving behind only empty streets and silent buildings. They moved through the capital in tight formation. Every shadow could hide a threat. Every doorway could conceal an ambush. But nothing attacked them. The city was simply empty. Kale stopped at a data terminal outside an administrative building. His mechadendrites connected to the machine, and his eyes flickered as he processed information. I have found something, he said. Picked recordings from the day of the attack. The team gathered around as Kale projected the footage onto a nearby wall. Citizens walked through the streets, going about their daily lives. Then the sky darkened. Mycetic spores fell like rain, crashing into buildings and splitting open to release Tyranid organisms. But these were not warrior creatures. They were rippers, small serpentine beasts that worked in swarms. The recording showed the rippers burrowing into the ground instead of attacking people. They dug through roads and foundations. They carved tunnels beneath the city with terrible speed. Only after the excavation began did the larger creatures arrive to harvest the population. They were searching for something, Artemis said. The feeding was secondary. Aurelius nodded grimly. The Inquisitor was right. But what could the Tyranids want beneath an imperial world? Kale continued to process data from the terminal. More recordings showed the excavation spreading outward from the cathedral. The oldest structure in the city. The place where Colovan Prime's first settlers had built their church 10,000 years ago. There, Thaniel said through the vox. His voice was calm despite the words. Movement. Northwest quadrant. Humanoid shape. The team turned as one. In the shadows of a collapsed building, a figure watched them. It wore tattered robes over carapace armor. An inquisitorial rosette hung from a chain around its neck. Catching the dim light, Artemis raised his bolter. "Identify yourself." The figure did not answer. Instead, it spoke a single word that made no sense in this context. "Necrons." Then it vanished. One moment the figure stood in the shadows, the next moment it was gone as if it had never existed. Dren rushed forward, his frost axe ready, but found nothing. No tracks. No scent trail. Only dust. What manner of trick was that? Mordecai demanded. His grip tightened on his heavy bolter. Witchcraft. Before anyone could answer, the ground beneath them began to glow. Green light pulsed through cracks in the pavement. The light was cold and wrong, like something that belonged to an older universe. Artemis felt his skin crawl beneath his armor. "Weapons ready," Aurelius commanded. "Form defensive circle." The glow intensified. Geometric patterns appeared in the light, symbols that hurt to look at directly. Kale analyzed them with his augmented eyes and went very still. "These are necronter glyphs," he said. "We are standing on a tomb." The ground shook. Dust fell from the buildings around them. Somewhere below, ancient machines were waking from a sleep that had lasted millions of years. The Tyranids had not come to feed. They had come to claim something from beneath this world, and in doing so, they had disturbed guardians far more dangerous than themselves. Artemis understood now why the mysterious figure had appeared. The Inquisitor, whoever she was, had been trying to warn them. Two Xenos threats had converged on Colovan Prime. The Tyranid sought something in the depths, and the Necrons would kill everything to protect it. A section of the plaza collapsed inward, revealing a shaft that descended into darkness. Green light pulsed from within, rhythmic as a heartbeat. The entrance to the tomb had opened. "We go down," Aurelius said. It was not a question, Mordecai laughed grimly. "Into the lair of the metal devils. The Emperor tests us." "The Emperor protects," Artemis replied. The words felt hollow, but he said them anyway. One by one, the kill team descended into the shaft. The green light swallowed them, and the surface world disappeared above. They were entering a place older than humanity, older than the Imperium, older perhaps than life itself. In the darkness below, eyes that had not opened for 60 million years began to glow. The Necrons were waking, and they were very, very angry. The tomb swallowed all light except its own. Green luminescence pulsed through corridors of living metal, casting strange shadows that moved against the walls. Artemis kept his bolter raised as the kill team advanced deeper into the ancient complex. The air tasted wrong, like copper and ozone mixed with something older than time. Mordecai whispered the litany of hate as he walked. The words were a prayer of destruction, a promise to purge all enemies of mankind. His voice was the only human sound in the silence. Even their armored footsteps made no echo. The metal walls seemed to absorb everything. "The corridors are changing," Kale reported. His augmented eyes tracked the subtle shifts in the architecture. "The walls reform behind us. There is no path back." Aurelius did not slow his pace. "Then we move forward. The mission remains unchanged. Find what the Tyranid sought. Destroy it or secure it." They passed through chambers filled with strange machinery. Stasis pods lined the walls, each containing a metal skeleton in eternal sleep. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. An army waiting to wake. Artemis tried not to think about what would happen if all these warriors rose at once. Dren stopped suddenly. His nose twitched, and a growl built in his throat. "Something hunts us. I smell metal and lightning." The attack came from the walls themselves. Canoptech wraiths phased through the solid metal, their serpentine bodies flickering between solid and ghost. They were maintenance constructs, but their claws could tear through ceramite armor like paper. Contact, Thaniel shouted. His sniper rifle barked, and a wraith's head exploded in a shower of sparks. But two more emerged to take its place. The kill team formed a defensive circle. Bolter fire lit the corridor with muzzle flashes. Mordecai's heavy bolter roared, cutting down wraiths that tried to flank them. But the creatures were fast, and their phase shifters made them nearly impossible to hit. A wraith materialized behind Thaniel. Its claws punched through his backpack and out through his chest plate. The dark angel fell without a sound, blood spraying across the metal floor. Artemis turned and fired, his bolt rounds tearing the wraith apart, but the damage was done. "Brother down," Artemis called. He grabbed Thaniel and pulled him into cover. The wound was serious. The claws had pierced one of his lungs and damaged his secondary heart. Dren roared and charged into the mass of wraiths. His frost axe blazed with killing cold, each swing shattering metal bodies into frozen fragments. He fought like a thing possessed, his wolf heritage taking over completely. Blood rage. The curse of his chapter. "Dren, hold formation," Aurelius commanded. But the space wolf was beyond hearing. He carved a path through the wraiths, leaving destruction in his wake. Kale sealed Thaniel's wounds with emergency biofoam. "He will live, but he cannot fight. We must carry him." The wraiths retreated suddenly. They phased back into the walls and disappeared. The corridor fell silent again. Dren stood among the broken machines, his chest heaving, frost spreading from his axe across the floor. "Why did they stop?" Mordecai asked. His heavy bolter swept the walls, searching for new targets. Artemis looked ahead. The corridor opened into a vast chamber. Green light poured from within, brighter than anything they had seen. They were not trying to kill us, he realized. They were hurting us. The kill team entered the central chamber. It was enormous, large enough to hold a battleship. At its center stood a dais of black stone, and upon the dais rested a crystalline sphere. The sphere pulsed with light that was not light, cold that was not cold. Looking at it hurt something deep in the soul. "The weapon," Aurelius breathed. "This is what the Tyrannid sought." Inscriptions covered the walls of the chamber. Kale's linguistic archives translated them in real time. "These are warnings," he said. "The breath of the Nightbringer. A weapon of the star gods, sealed here when the Necronter rose against their masters. It is too dangerous to use. Too dangerous to destroy." "Then why did the Tyrannids want it?" Artemis asked. Before anyone could answer, the far wall exploded inward. Tyrannid organisms poured through the breach. Genestealers and warriors and things that had no name. They had tunneled through kilometers of rock to reach this chamber. And behind them came something massive. A Carnifex, its armored hide scarred from battles across 100 worlds, but the Tyrannids did not attack the kill team. They charged toward the dais, toward the sphere. They wanted the weapon, and nothing would stop them. Then the floor opened, and the Necrons rose. Warriors emerged from hidden alcoves, their Gauss weapons already firing. Each beam stripped matter from existence, dissolving Tyrannid flesh to nothing. Scarabs swarmed over fallen creatures, breaking them down into component atoms. And at the center of the Necron force stood their lord. He was tall and terrible, his metal body decorated with gold and precious gems. A resurrection orb floated beside him, ready to restore his warriors when they fell. His eyes blazed with green fire as he surveyed the chaos. "You should not have come here, children of flesh," the Necron Lord said. His voice was like grinding metal. "This place belongs to us. The weapon belongs to us. And you belong to death." The three-way battle erupted. Tyrannid fought Necron. Necron fought Tyrannid. And the kill team stood in the middle, surrounded by enemies on all sides. Artemis looked at the sphere on the dais. Whatever that weapon was, it had drawn two ancient species to this world. It had caused the death of 8 million people. And if either enemy claimed it, the entire sector would burn. "We have to destroy it," he said. Aurelius shook his head. "We do not know how. We do not know what it truly is. Above them, the ceiling cracked. More Tyranids were coming. Below them, more Necrons were rising. Time was running out, and the kill team had nowhere to run. Gauss beams screamed through the air. Tyranid claws tore through metal bodies. The chamber had become a storm of death, and the kill team fought to survive at its center. Artemis dragged Thaniel behind a fallen column as green energy burned past them. The wounded Dark Angel was conscious but weak, his bolter clutched in trembling hands. "Leave me," Thaniel whispered. "Complete the mission." "No brother gets left behind," Artemis replied. He fired over the column, his bolt rounds exploding against a Necron warrior's chest. The machine fell, but green light already flickered around its wounds. It would rise again soon. Across the chamber, Mordecai had planted himself before a tunnel breach. Tyranid creatures poured through the opening, a river of chitin and claws. His heavy bolter never stopped firing. Brass casings piled around his feet like golden snow. The litany of hate roared from his lips between each burst. "For the Emperor," Mordecai screamed. "For Dorn. For the Temple." A Carnifex charged through the breach, crushing smaller creatures beneath its massive legs. Mordecai did not retreat. He aimed at the beast's head and held the trigger. Bolt rounds punched through armored plates and into the brain beneath. The Carnifex stumbled, ichor spraying from its wounds, but it did not fall. It kept coming, driven by the hive mind's will. Its crushing claws reached for the Black Templar. "Mordecai," Aurelius shouted. "Fall back." Mordecai shook his head. His heavy bolter was empty. He drew his combat knife, a blade no larger than the Carnifex's smallest claw. "My death buys you time, Sergeant. Use it well." The Carnifex struck. Mordecai disappeared beneath its bulk, his final prayer cut short. The creature roared in triumph, but its victory had cost precious seconds. Seconds the kill team needed. Aurelius assessed the situation with veteran eyes. The Tyranids and Necrons were focused on each other. Neither force saw the Space Marines as the primary threat. "We move through them," he commanded. "Use their battle as cover. Our objective is the weapon." The remaining team members advanced in pairs. Artemis supported Thaniel while Kale covered their flank. Dren and Aurelius pushed forward, cutting down any creature that noticed them. The chaos around them was absolute. Genestealers leaped onto Necron warriors, tearing at metal joints. Gauss beams dissolved Tyranid horrors mid-charge. The floor was slick with ichor and oil. They reached the dais steps. The crystalline sphere pulsed above them, its light growing stronger. Something moved within the crystal. Something aware. "How do we destroy it?" Dren demanded. His frost axe dripped with alien fluids. Kale scanned the sphere with his augmented senses. "Unknown. The material does not match any known substance. Standard weapons will have no effect." A voice spoke from behind them. "You cannot destroy it. But you can activate it." They turned. The mysterious figure from the surface stood at the edge of the dais. Inquisitor Helene Carrix had found them again. Her eyes reflected the sphere's cold light. "How did you get down here?" Aurelius asked. His bolt pistol aimed at her heart. "I have been tracking this tomb for 3 years, Carrix said. I know its secrets better than the Necrons themselves. That sphere is not a weapon. It is a trigger. Activate it, and every Necron and Tyranid within this star system will be annihilated." Hope flickered in Artemis's hearts. "Then we use it. We end this threat forever." "The cost is the planet itself," Carrix continued. "The activation will crack Colovan Prime to its core. Everyone here will die. Including us." Silence fell over the group. Around them, the battle raged on. Necron warriors fell and rose again. Tyranid swarms pushed forward despite their losses. Time was measured in heartbeats now. Before Aurelius could respond, Dren moved. The space wolf grabbed the sphere with both hands and lifted it from the dais. Blue light exploded from his eyes. Frost spread across his armor, coating him in ice. His mouth opened in a silent scream. Dren, Artemis shouted. He reached for his brother, but Kale held him back. Do not touch him. The sphere has bonded with his nervous system. Any interference could kill them both. The Necron Lord noticed the commotion. His attention shifted from the Tyranid swarm to the space wolf holding his prize. Metal feet clanged against the floor as he strode toward the dais, his warriors forming a protective wedge around him. Put it down, animal, the Necron Lord commanded. You have no understanding of what you hold. That sphere does not contain a weapon. It contains a god. Carex went pale. No. The record said nothing about this. Your records are incomplete, flesh thing. The Necron Lord stopped at the base of the dais. His eyes burned with something that might have been fear. Within that crystal sleeps a shard of the Nightbringer. A fragment of the star god my ancestors enslaved and shattered. Activate that prison and you will not destroy my kind. You will free what we spent millions of years trying to contain. Dren trembled. The frost on his armor cracked and reformed. Inside the sphere, something opened its eyes. Something old and hungry and filled with hatred for all living things. The Tyranids, Artemis realized. They did not come to claim the weapon. They came because they sensed the Nightbringer. They were fleeing from it. Even the great devourer fears death, the Necron Lord agreed. And death itself sleeps in that sphere. The chamber shook. Cracks spread across the ceiling. The battle between Xenos forces had damaged the tomb structure. They had minutes before the entire complex collapsed, Aurelius faced an impossible choice. Release the sphere and let the Necrons reclaim their prisoner. Activate it and unleash a tan shard that could consume worlds. Or find another way, but what other way was there? Dren stood frozen at the center of chaos. The sphere's light consumed him, turning his veins to rivers of cold fire. Inside the crystal, the Nightbringer shard stirred in its prison. Ancient hunger radiated from it, a desire to feed that made the Tyranid hive mind seem like a gentle dream. Artemis watched his brother suffer and felt helpless. They had come to this world as strangers forced into alliance. Now Dren was dying, and there was nothing he could do. Release the sphere, the Necron Lord commanded. His warriors formed a ring around the dais, their Gauss weapons ready. I will not ask again. Aurelius stepped forward. And if we refuse? Then you die. Your companion dies. And when the shard eventually frees itself, your entire species dies. The Necron Lord tilted his metal head. The mathematics favor cooperation. Inquisitor Carex gripped Aurelius's arm. He speaks truth. A tan shard cannot be contained by flesh. The bond is killing your warrior. In moments, his mind will burn out, and the shard will have its vessel. Artemis looked at Dren. The space wolf's lips moved in silent words. His eyes, still glowing with terrible light, found Artemis across the chamber. There was awareness there. Desperation. And something else. A message. The ship, Dren whispered through frozen lips. The ship. Understanding struck Artemis like a thunderbolt. Their Corvus Blackstar waited on the surface, its plasma drives fully charged for emergency extraction. Those drives could level a city if they detonated. Could they also bury a tomb? Kale, Artemis said quietly. Can you remote access the Blackstar from here? The Techmarine's eyes flickered. The signal would be weak through this much rock. But possible. Why? Plasma cascade. Bring the ship down on top of this chamber. The detonation will not destroy the sphere, but it will bury everything under a kilometer of molten stone. Carrick stared at him. The Necrons will regenerate eventually. The shard will remain imprisoned. And the Tyranids lose their prize. Artemis turned to Aurelius. It is not a perfect solution. But it is a solution. Aurelius considered for a long moment. The battle still raged around them. Necron warriors fell and rose. Tyranids poured through breaches in the walls. Time was measured in seconds now. Do it, Aurelius commanded. Kale's mechadendrites extended, searching for signal paths through the stone. His eyes went distant as he connected with the Corvus Blackstar far above. Contact established. Initiating engine overload sequence. Estimated time to impact, 4 minutes. The Necron Lord sensed something was wrong. What are you doing, flesh things? Artemis raised his bolter. Ending this. Kale, keep working. Everyone else, we fight our way out. The chamber erupted into violence. Aurelius fired his bolt pistol at the Necron Lord, forcing the ancient machine backward. Artemis charged forward and grabbed Dren, wrenching him away from the dais. The sphere fell from the Space Wolf's hands and crashed against the stone floor. It did not break, but the connection severed. Dren collapsed, unconscious but alive. 3 minutes, Kale reported. The kill team moved toward the excavation tunnel. Necron warriors blocked their path. Artemis fired until his magazine ran dry, then drew his combat knife and fought hand to hand. Beside him, Thaniel struggled to keep pace, his wounds slowing him despite his determination. 2 minutes. The Necron Lord pursued them. His resurrection orb glowed as it restored fallen warriors faster than they could be destroyed. You cannot escape, he called. This tomb extends for hundreds of kilometers. You will never reach the surface. Carix pointed to a side passage. There. Emergency ascent shaft. The tomb's original builders included it for maintenance. It leads directly to the cathedral foundation. They ran. The passage was narrow, built for mechanical constructs rather than armored giants. Kale led the way, his servoarm tearing through obstacles. Artemis carried Dren over his shoulder. Thaniel stumbled but kept moving, one hand pressed against his wounded chest. 1 minute. The shaft angled upward. Dim light filtered from above. They climbed through ancient machinery, past dormant systems that had not functioned for millions of years. Behind them, the Necron Lord's voice echoed with cold fury. You have solved nothing. The tomb will survive. We will survive. And when we rise again, we will remember what you have done. Then remember this, Aurelius shouted back. The Deathwatch never stops hunting. They burst through the surface as the world ended behind them. The Corvus Blackstar descended like a falling star, its plasma drive screaming. It struck the cathedral directly above the central chamber and detonated. The explosion was blinding. The ground cracked and buckled. Fire erupted from 100 fissures as molten rock consumed the tomb below. The kill team ran until they reached safety, then turned to watch. Colovan Prime's crust split open across kilometers. The tomb vanished beneath waves of liquid stone. Whatever secrets it held were buried now, locked away until the planet itself cooled and hardened. Carix called for extraction. A Navy ship arrived within hours, carrying them away from the dead world. Dren regained consciousness during the journey. He remembered nothing of the sphere's touch, only fragments of cold and hunger. I failed, he said. I should have been stronger. Artemis shook his head. You held a god in your hands and survived. There is no failure in that. Months later, they stood before the Wall of the Fallen in Watch Fortress Arioch. Artemis carved Mordecai's name into the stone with his own hands. The Black Templar had died as he lived, standing between humanity and its enemies. His sacrifice would not be forgotten. Inquisitor Carix approached with new orders. Another world. Another threat. The Deathwatch is needed. Aurelius accepted the data slate. We will be ready. Dren clasped Artemis's shoulder as they walked toward the briefing chamber. His yellow eyes held something that might have been respect. Still miss your blue paint, ultramarine. Artemis looked down at his black gauntlet. The color felt right now. It felt like purpose. The paint does not matter, he said. The vigil matters. The doors closed behind them. Somewhere in the void, Tyranid hive ships recalculated their routes around Colovan Prime. Somewhere in the darkness, Necron lords whispered of revenge. And somewhere in the depths, buried under a kilometer of cooling stone, a crystalline sphere pulsed with patient light. The Nightbringer could wait. It had waited for 60 million years. It would wait 60 million more, but the Deathwatch would be ready when it woke.